Your story, good sir. Make us giggle until we pee all over ourselves.
Okay, so in researching for Shazam and everything like that, obviously, uh, Captain Marvel, he started out, Billy Batson was an orphan. Um, so this goes back to one of my first duty stations. Um, Living in Crete, my buddy Justin and I, we're on Liberty. We're downtown in Hanya, which is like the main city there near the base. And there's these gypsy kids that, I mean, you know, gypsy kids. They're going to come up and they're going to beg for money. Money, money, money. So they're doing this. And my friend, we're getting annoyed because they keep asking us for money. We're like, no, just go away. We see you get into a limo each night. So no, you're not. You don't need the money. So my buddy pulls out a 10 US dollars. And looks at one kid, points at him, says, "You." Points at another kid, says, "Make that kid bleed." And this 7-year-old just cracked this other kid in the face and started chasing him down the street. He earned that $10.
Oh, what the fuck?
Oh my god.
If you're gonna entertain yourself, you might as well do it right.
Holy shit, biscuits.
Well, you weren't wrong there.
Yeah. All right.
Oh my gosh.
So, ladies, you're up first. Hopefully, you are as prepared and as organized as single dad and I.
Probably not.
Oh well.
We were not like back chatting behind closed doors going, hey, you say this and I'll say this and Shazam!
I mean, we probably.
Careful, you're gonna end up turning him back into Billy Bobson.
No.
Good, then he can be 12 and start saying stupid things. Oh.
So this will be put up later in the actual history of episodes, but FYI, in the New 52, when he says Shazam, he has to say it with intent. So because like in the Shazam movie, or Captain Marvel movie, where he's flying, he just says Shazam, and then lightning bolt hits him, and he goes into the ocean. He's like, "Oh shit, I can't just willy nilly." They changed it so that he can't just say Shazam every time, and all of a sudden gets lightning struck. So, just FYI.
I mean, it's not exactly a word that's in common usage in the English language. I mean, it's not like he's running around saying anti-disestablishmentarianism. It's
And then, poof, he's a politician.
Or banana.
Yeah, banana.
I would like to eat that. Oh crap. That one. That shake. It has the strawberries and the other fruit.
The thing with the thing inside, and it's like mashed up in the thing, and it becomes a thing.
Yeah, that thing. Yeah.
That thing.
Okay. Okay. So, ladies, you're up first.
Sorry, I almost choked on some Shazam.
phrasing.
I'm totally gonna use that next time.
No, what was I gonna say? Oh, so
You're gonna tell us about Captain Marvel.
Oh,
yes. Would you like to go first, or should I?
I wasn't grabbing my boobs.
Whoa.
They're well protected. So if you want to say hi to like the most badass person on the planet and then some, look up. There she is in that beautiful, beautiful dress. Makes me smile. Makes me happy.
At least she's in the same universe.
Huh?
At least she's in the same universe. She's not.
Hey, power, suck it. Actually, you know what? I can put this on, and then I'll be in the same company. There we go.
There you go.
Disney.
There you go.
Bam! Suck
That
it.
looks natural.
All right, hold on. Let me take this off because this is.
That's
Oh, you stopped. Okay.
And everyone's like, wow, they're like 5 seconds late from each other.
So I will say this. One of my favorite things about her is that she can absorb power and then reflect it. And it's really amazing. And I'll put it this way. seeing her in her position of power finally coming to light in Marvel is really exciting for me. And it, as much as I hate to say this, it took for it to be acceptable again. And it's really exciting to see kind of women in those positions of power, because like as a kid looking up to like people like Wonder Woman, Captain Marvel, and Catwoman, all these wonderful female figures being badasses, not because of their curves or their beauty, but because they were legitimately kicking ass. It's exciting, and it's really just a proud thing for me to be in this generation where that's the norm now.
Yeah, absolutely. And she has kind of a lot of Marvel, she has a normal upbringing. She's got this background that is very human, and then she becomes something more, but she's already been pushing herself. She already had a dream. She already wanted to be an astronaut. She wanted to be out there. She wanted to see the universe, and then she basically became the universe.
Yeah. So instead of just having it bestowed, be like, hey, you're cool, we're gonna give you powers, like she had a motive, she had a goal, she had plans, she defied everything even before becoming Captain Marvel. And so kind of having that upbringing, you get to see a 3D character. Yeah, she's got like issues that she has to deal with and she has to face and confront and overcome. Yeah. And so like to see that, be like, it makes her human, as opposed to a certain DC character who's just like, hey, you're cool, we're gonna give you powers and we're gonna give you a weakness that says Shazam. like how realistic is that? Like I can't relate to that.
You're just like, yeah. I'm kid, I'm not anymore.
No, I know. He and I are keeping our mouths shut. He's like, oh, we about to school you.
Thanks. Okay.
At any rate, please proceed with the history and the powers and the abilities. Tell us everything we need to know about Captain Marvel in the Marvel Universe for listeners who don't know anything and are about to go into it, and just to reevaluate all the comic book fans out there.
There's just so much. She is such a complex and well-rounded character. It's so much. I do like that into the movies they have incorporated into her going into the Air Force Academy, which they didn't do in any of the comics. She just became a pilot somehow in the comics. She worked her butt off and became a pilot. But 30% of commissioned officers come out of the Air Force Academy. So the fact that she is a pilot, it's not a hard stretch. So Marvel, because the Air Force has worked very hard with Marvel in a lot of these movies, it's kind of their thank you to them. So I really appreciate that, representing the Air Force here.
I will cheer for that once.
Aw, I got it once.
You get your one for like the week.
I'm glad it's for the week and not like the year.
That's true. Not only that, but because she was in the Air Force and she was an Air Force officer, she does bring that kind of that military mindset into her tactics and her way of working things out. It's not just like, oh, I gotta punch things. Like it's very similar to like Captain America and the Avengers. She coordinated a lot of things. She was 3 steps ahead of everything. She knew what was going to happen. And it was very tactical, and it was very exciting to see like how she fought.
So kind of like if you put the Punisher and Captain America into one being. Because Frank Castle is very the tactical, he's always planning ahead. Whereas, yeah, Captain America's leading, but he's always just diving into the situation and fighting for what he thinks is right and blah, blah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Well, she can kind of see like things that are going to happen, like this sixth sense, but it doesn't. Yeah, but it doesn't always like pan out right. So I think that's either hit or miss on a good or a bad thing, because she doesn't recall a lot of her old memories. She's had a lot of problems with becoming part of this race that she wasn't, which I got very confused about that whole thing. Let me tell you. That was like,
kind of.
it's a very hard background to follow through her.
Yeah, well, because there's been more than one Captain Marvel. There's been a couple iterations. The one that we're used to now, Carol Danvers, is, I want to say, oh God,
Fourth.
I think it's a
Fifth.
no. I think
there's
it's a third.
3 main ones, but then there was 2 others from the universe that took over after what's her name?
I just know of Marvel, the original.
Yeah, there's Captain
and then
Marvel.
there was Ms. Marvel. And then Captain Marvel. Those are the only 3 I know.
No, there was Captain Marvel, and then it was taken over by, crap, I cannot think of her name all of a sudden.
I can't help you there.
And then there was 2 others from their same planet or whatever who took over it after. And then she got it. She got the title, but she didn't get the title until after. Okay, I don't know if these are going to be spoilers for the movie or not, because
Spoiler alert.
yeah, because
Yes.
nobody's seen the movie yet. Because when she leaves for a while and then comes back, and then he has passed away, and then that's when she takes it over, but it had been passed down for a while she's been gone. Captain Marvel. I should have wrote down. I should have like wrote down things. I know in my mind, especially when I get into like things. I'm like,
we were talking about it too.
can't
We're like,
remember.
oh yeah, there's this, and this, and then all of a sudden we see like disgusting yellow and red shiny shit, and I'm just like,
Get your hearts out of my face.
Hold on. Here's shiny distraction.
So
But anyways,
Yes.
because originally, she was Miss Marvel with him.
You touch base on the fact that she can absorb and dish back.
Yes.
Now, is that she absorbs it and turns it into her own power, along with her own power, or does she give that exact hit and reverberate it right back at them? Does she eternalize it, or does she actually bounce it back?
I want to say she internalizes it and turns it into her own power.
Okay.
But she can also read into the cosmos, so she can feel energy of things that are going on elsewhere. So once she gets intertangled into the Marvel universe, like she knows where everyone is and what they're doing. She doesn't have to call them on the phone.
Yeah.
Their energy is in the world, so she knows where they're at.
Yeah. And that also has to do with the quantum realm, because she can travel through that. So that definitely plays a part when playing with time. And ooh, somebody's phone went off. I felt that in myself. Sorry, ADD mommy. Don't mind me.
We don't get distracted easily at all.
What?
Please continue. You're doing so good on the Batman episode. What happens?
Giggle fest.
Well,
it's harder when we're like trying to do our thing, and then we're waiting for you guys to do your thing. But I think we needed to do a little more interacting between the two, like do one thing and then one thing and then one thing,
Yeah.
instead of all one thing and then all one thing.
I mean, I gave you a week to do homework, and then all I told you to do was split it between the two.
No. I know exactly what you're saying, Jen.
No, I'm talking about just playing off of each other.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
This is debate
We know
101.
the information. It's just harder to just like sit here and like list things.
yeah.
Standard debate format. You speak, we speak. You rebut, we rebut. And that's the way this works.
Fortunately, that's not how this is going to go tonight.
Yeah.
He's like,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna wait until you guys forget half the things, and then I'm gonna pretend that we're better than you.
Yeah, I think that's where it's going.
That's why they wanted us to go first.
Ooh.
I wanted
Has absolutely nothing to do with being gentlemen.
no.
Nope.
I wanted you guys to go first because Captain Marvel's movie comes out first.
That is true.
There you go.
I'll
So
give you
No, she does have a litany of powers, which is pretty incredible, and I'm surprised that Marvel didn't really tap into that until now. But which is exciting. But like things like how, like the quantum realm, going through time, and having what was it? I forget how they call it, but it was like electromagnetic energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, she has control over that, which is kind of how, like, part of the absorption and stuff like that. She can fly, which is kind of, at least from the Shazam movies, we haven't seen that yet, but give it time. He gets into it eventually. Spoilers. But like
Spoiler alert.
like where he can fly, she can fly. She can also travel through space, which is cool.
Yeah, she can breathe in space. She doesn't need anything.
oh, that's cool.
And yeah, and she also has this insane amount of stamina. Like even like there was one time where she fought with Rogue. Rogue took her powers, and even after that, like she still survived and kind of got back on her feet from that. Granted, Rogue kind of went crazy, but and that was just kind of like what happens.
And then she was
if you
pissed
mess
at
with her.
Rogue for a really long time, and whatever.
Oh yeah, minor details. This, that, and the other. Long story short, people died. Yeah, kidding.
Minor side quest. That's why I said she's a hot mess. Her whole entire storyline is a hot mess over and over again.
Yeah. But at the same time, she does kind of take that energy and stuff that goes against her, and she uses it into learning experiences and turns it into like teachable moments, essentially. And she kind of, I'd like to say she never makes the same mistake twice, but then we would not have any more comic books if people never made the same mistake twice.
No, she's very human. They actually do keep her
Yeah.
very, very human. She makes mistakes. She keeps moving forward, though.
Yeah, and I do have great respect for a 3D character like that. It kind of reminds me of what we discussed. I don't know if it was last time or the time before when we were talking about Watchmen and their 3D characters, or they're like multi-level character or multi-layered characters. Captain Marvel very much is in that same line where it's like, yeah, she's got weaknesses. People try to exploit that, but it makes her human.
Gotcha.
It makes her a superhero that we can relate to, and it makes her a superhero that we can rally behind, as opposed to a boy.
I mean, essentially, she is human. She just got her DNA intertwined with an alien race.
Was it
Yeah.
Marvel? She got the DNA. from
Yeah, she
Marvel?
got. It was in a NASA experiment that Marvel was a part of, and during some type of whatever altercation, we shall say, she got knocked into the machine and made super. But she was already super before that. I mean, she had an entire history of stuff.
I'm so happy whoever's reaching that was. Holy crap. Oh my god. That was amazing.
That is staying in on editing. I'm just saying. That was awesome.
Oh my god. That was amazing.
Oh my god.
That would be mine.
You guys got any more powers that you guys want to bring up, or do you want to turn the floor over to us and let us discuss Shazam?
I don't know if she still has this power, but she had this power of manipulating gravity. So for like anybody who was trying to fly, and she could say no,
No, just me.
no, or if they're going for a punch, and she's like no, things like that. It's pretty exciting.
That's cool.
So
She has a lot of powers.
Yeah, she has, like, the more you kind of go into it, the more you discover that she has, which is really exciting. But yeah, so if she goes in, if your guy goes in for a punch, she'll probably stop it. If he does land a punch, she'll probably absorb it and then just use that in her powers.
Nice. Yeah, I read somewhere about Captain Marvel. Essentially, the reason why she's the Superman of Marvel Comics is because she keeps having the longer she goes, the more powers keep popping up, basically. So she keeps having more and more powers as the time goes on with her. So.
Yeah.
All right.
Which is great, but we don't have to deal with the kryptonite or anything like that, which is nice.
I mean, I don't have to deal with plutonium, but that would still kill me if it was in the room. I'm just saying. Okay, side note, I was having this conversation in high school, and someone goes, I hate Superman because kryptonite, a green rock, can kill him. I look over at him, I go, plutonium can kill you, but that's a substance found on Earth, you dumb shit. And he looks at me like, whoa. I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of chemicals that are not man-made that are on Earth that can kill you.
Mm-hmm.
Just like kryptonite can kill Superman. So to sit there and make that argument is stupid. Now, I fully understand when people go, I don't like Superman because he's too overpowered. I get that, because some people want to see a character.
I don't like him because he's an asshole.
I mean, the new 52 version is.
Well, see, my feelings on Superman is he's like this guy who is like, oh, you have a problem? You're going to ask me to help you, right? Right? Oh, you're not? Oh, you're going to try to figure it out on your own? Let's wait. Oh, now you want my help? Okay. I gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I've read a lot of Superman comics in my life, and not once have I sat there and watched him watch as it's about to happen and then just stand there staring at it before taking action.
He does take action.
Like,
but he's going to I don't know. I've never liked Superman.
I will level with you. The new 52 one, he's got a bit of an attitude. That's why I didn't like that until they did this whole All-Star Superman turns out still is alive, and they fused together to make one new Superman, and I'm just like, holy shit, that's good. Anyway, let's turn the tables. So, Russ, why don't you go ahead and give them a brief history?
Well, I could go into publication history. The original character was based on an old like pulp graphic novel back in the 1930s called Captain Thunder, and then first released as Captain Marvel in 1940. It was not a DC comic at that time. DC didn't pick up the character for a while, and it was actually really popular up until the 1950s, at which point the creator got sued because it was too much like Superman, and so DC sued the writers and everything like that. And then it came back. DC eventually bought the rights to the character to the quote-unquote Captain family, because there are several other characters in there, along with Black Adam and some other arch nemesis. And then started writing them in. Now, everything changed with Flashpoint. And then, Captain Marvel wasn't a very, very often used superhero up until that point, but Flashpoint changed everything as it did, rewrote the entire universe. Now, the Flashpoint variation of Captain Marvel, obviously you had the 6 different kids that all came together, that they all said Shazam at the same time. And so then it went from there, coming back to Rebirth and to Earth and everything like that. And basically going into character history, that's a little bit of the publication history. Character history, you've got this orphan. He's Billy Batson. Depending on which version you're reading at the time, he's either 12 or 15 years old. Doesn't matter. Comes from a broken home, gets taken in the new 52 version. He's brought into a foster home, the Vasquezes. Not good people, and then falls in with a bunch of other kids and miscreants and everything like that. But you've got somebody called the Wizard, who has this all power and everything like that, and he's about to die. He wants to pass on his power to somebody that is worthy, and so he's holding these tests over on the Rock of Eternity, and the Rock of Eternity is basically kind of like Atlantis. It's this place that the Wizard lives, where he harnesses his power and everything like that. So he actually summons Billy Batson there, and they get into an argument, of all things. And Billy is, the wizard is looking for somebody that is wholesome and 100% pure. And Billy argues with him and says, there is nobody like this. There is nobody that is 100% pure. And so they actually disagree. And the wizard's like, well, hold on. But then looks inside Billy's spirit and sees that he has the embers of hope, which is what they called it. And sees that even though he realizes that there isn't anybody that's 100% pure that can take over this power, that Billy has this hope inside of him. He has the ability to harness this power of hope, and so he gives him the powers of Shazam. Now, I know, Tom, you're going to talk about the actual powers and everything like that, but to understand them, you actually have to go into the name of Shazam. I'm pretty sure you're going to talk about that right about now.
Shazam is not just his name, it is the acronym for each one of his powers, and there's more to it to each one of them as opposed to just the title themselves. So, going off of my memory, because I am a huge fan, let's just go Shazam. Like that. I had to do that, I'm sorry.
You were waiting all day for that word.
I was. You have no idea.
That's adorable.
Shazam. So the S stands for the wisdom of Solomon. H stands for the strength of Hercules. The first A stands for the stamina of Atlas. The Z stands for the powers of Zeus. The next A stands for the courage of Achilles. And then the M is the speed of Mercury. To go in depth with each one of them, he is still this boy, this foster kid, but he has the ability after he activates it, all he has to do through will and thinking is to tap into it, and he has access to it. Now, a sub part of it with the courage of Achilles also comes with the fighting capability of Achilles. He actually has a lot of battle strategy that comes with it. So he knows how to fist fight, how to do hand-to-hand combat. He also knows how to read other people, which also ties in with the wisdom of Solomon, to counter whatever's happening and to learn from his opponent and what's going on. The stamina of Atlas, as a note, is the stamina of a god. So it's omnipotent in and of itself.
Titan, not a god.
A Titan. I'm sorry, a Titan is the stamina of a Titan. So it's omnipotent in and of itself. It's never ending. The speed of Mercury, to touch base on a comic reference, Justice League, written and illustrated by Alex Ross. The Flash, the fastest man alive. He was running around the world. You could see him going from the west and going into the east in a single breath. That's how fast the Flash was running. He was doing this by being infected by something that was making him run until he would basically die from exhaustion. So the only two people in existence in the DC world that could catch up to him was Superman and Shazam, aka Captain Marvel. Superman said it himself. Billy, I have to admit, we've raced each other constantly, and I honestly think he just lets me win. But you, Billy, you do not have the speed of a man. You have the speed of a god. Maybe you are the one who can catch up to Shazam, to the Flash. Captain Marvel's response then is, you're right. But there's one problem. He's not just running fast. His molecules are vibrating at such a speed that no one who is solid mass can catch up to him. But I have an idea. Shazam gets up close enough, shouts Shazam, the lightning bolt strikes Flash, knocks him out, and stops him. In other words, Shazam was able to catch up with the fastest man alive, running at top speeds. Because, as Superman put it, he doesn't have the speed of mortals. He has the speed of gods. So, another thing with gods, the powers of Zeus, they come with a lot of different things. One of them, immortality. As long as he's in that adult form, he will not grow old, and he can barely be physically harmed, which also ties in with the stamina of Atlas. That's why when they wrote it, the only two beings in DC that can really even do any physical harm to him is Black Adam and Superman. But the only way to ever have that happen is they have to have physical contact. And even then, we're talking attacks that could practically shatter the earth into dust. And Shazam would take it, and you'd probably just see him get some blood. That's it. So he's very strong, he's very durable, and he can last a really long time due to the fact that he has the powers of omnipotent beings. The other thing that comes with the powers of Zeus, that also ties in with the whole wizard, is casting spells, actually. Shazam has the ability to cast spells as long as he says Shazam with intent to cast spells. In the comic book, because they're kids and they're just learning these powers, Shazam walks up and they're like, we need money if we're going to go buy beer. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to get this. And so he goes, Alakazam, give me money. The ATM then starts pouring an endless amount of money shooting at their faces. And they don't know what to do. Of course, this ties into something that comes with being Shazam, is once he's activated his power, things just start gravitating and coming to him. Bank rob, magnetizing. Two criminals come around the corner, look at Shazam and go, what the hell? And then he accidentally just lightly does this and slams the guy into a car, and he's like, oh crap, I hope I didn't kill him. But a woman then shows up in reflection of something, an object, and tells him that being Shazam, being this power, grants you the ability to have bad things basically happen around you, which is not a bad thing when you're trying to be a superhero. You know, you don't always have to, look to see something happening. If you feel something's about to happen, say Shazam and it will come right to you. That way you have the ability right then and there to stop it from happening.
So in that case, would you end up having, like, if you're just like, I feel like something's weird and you're in a public area and then you say Shazam and then have criminals flocking to you in a public area putting other people in danger?
I mean, honestly, essentially, that is exactly how that works.
That's pretty fucked up.
It is fucked up. It's 100%.
But think about it this way: from a tactical standpoint, he can control where it happens.
Yes.
He can control where the fight happens. He dictates the terrain, which all of us being in the military, we understand. All right.
That's true, but was he in the military?
Well, no.
No, he's a kid.
Does he have the does he have the mentality at 13 or 15 years old to see 3 steps ahead and see all the dangers that could be happening by doing those types of powers? Putting that type of power in someone that young could cause some issues with that.
Sure, obviously, and you're right. However, that's where the wisdom of Solomon and the courage of Achilles come into play. Once he's activated the powers, he taps into those two and is able to handle the situation. Another thing that I was reading up on with Shazam, this is something I think is pivotal to his character, is when activating Shazam, he has the power of persuasion. There are many issues and many series where he has simply ended the fight by reasoning with the person he's fighting with to stop. He has come across, he's used the goodness that is in his heart. See, when he uses Shazam, and he activates the superpower, as the wizard put it, he is activating his best version of himself. So, yeah, he's running around with the mentality of this boy. But once it's activated, certain things are happening. with the ATM, for instance, at first when they were like, we should just go to the ATM. You're strong, you could rip it open or whatever. And Billy, you know, if he was just a kid, he would been like, heck yeah, that's hilarious. But with this power, it's telling him deep down in his heart, you shouldn't do this. This shouldn't happen. But then they end up going to it and doing it anyway, but he felt bad. So he can project that when having conversations. Black Adam, so a little bio about Black Adam. Black Adam was the very first character to gain this power, but he gained it through the wrong methods. Another boy was originally supposed to be that Shazam, Captain Marvel, and his uncle killed him for it and took it and then said Shazam and stayed Black Adam for all eternity. Yes. Now we're talking all the way back to ancient Sumerian times. Like, it almost predates that. So, he was having a fight with this guy who truly believes that the only way to cure everything and heal everything is by eradicating mankind. And Shazam managed to reason with him to tell and go, you know what? I will do this thing for you and give you my power, but you have to do something for me first. I want to talk to the person inside. Somehow it worked, and Black Adam shouted it, turned back into his original self, and of course Shazam's like, okay, you just see what you did there, though, right? And Black Adam turned into dust because he was too old, and he couldn't retain it. So it's a very interesting power to his arsenal, is the power of reason and persuasion when fighting people, essentially.
Since you mentioned that, there was actually somebody in the chat who mentioned something really, really interesting. So I do want to give a shout out to Antonio Fett for this. He says, keep in mind, Wonder Woman and Shazam fought in a few panels in Injustice and she beat him. So, given that reason, with somebody who, like Captain Marvel, has that mentality, knows tactics is 3 steps ahead of all the time, can he reason with, like, one, I don't know how they would end up fighting with each other, but in what way would he reason her to stop?
We could go the guilt trip method and be like, you do realize you're beating up a 10-year-old orphan boy, right?
Like, if the trailers proved any different, she's totally okay with beating up an old lady, so I don't think that's gonna stop her. So, like,
I think if Billy was to do this and he was to figure her out as a whole, honestly, he would start off by realizing she too is a superhero and touch base on that. He'd be like, we're superheroes. Why are we fighting each other? There's no reason to fight each other. There's threats out around us all the time that we need to take care of, and we're fighting each other. Stop. I feel like if things were to happen, he'd be playing more of a defensive role in the first place.
So he'd be defensive the whole time? Almost,
unless he really needs to freaking take down. He sees that she's a threat, and he needs to stop her. Another point is from the show Justice League Unlimited. When he was quitting the Justice League, he looked at Superman and he said, "You were my idol. I believed in you." He then said, no matter what happened, whenever the bad guys would do something really atrocious, I always thought, I have to be better than this and choose a different route. Figure out my opponent and choose something that nobody gets hurt and be a better person than my opponent that I'm fighting. So I feel like if he was to try and talk to her, he would try and talk to the fact that she's a superhero. She wants to save people's lives and try and remind her that he too is a superhero and they shouldn't be fighting.
Okay.
But that's not necessarily
I'm melting.
Say, other than
right.
Realizing that they're on the same side.
Right. And of course, another notable power due to Zeus is actual magical lightning. He can shoot lightning bolts out of everything. And of course, we've seen him countless times bear hug Superman and then throw him up at the sky and then shout Shazam to strike him in the chest.
That sounds like something that we would love to absorb.
Yeah, I was just thinking that too. I mean, taking that in and
And that's
Repurposing that would be
Right.
fun.
see, and so I was talking to this
Recycling.
with my workmates about how these characters really feel, because again, the stamina of Atlas and the powers of Zeus, immortality and stamina of Atlas, it bears to note that we're really talking about two characters that are the immovable object meets the unstoppable force. And as All-Star Superman put it, at the end of the day, they do nothing. Nothing happens, because otherwise it's just an endless war. Another thing to note, now of course this is to a degree a weakness. If Billy is injured for any discernible reason while as Shazam, all he would have to do is hide real fast, shout Shazam, then shout it again, and he's back to 100%. That magical power revives him, rejuvenates him. So if they were in a fight and he somehow, now I'm just saying somehow.
But he's got to figure out how to get away.
Exactly. I will admit that. He has to figure out how to get away, but
that's also how he defeated Black Adam the first time.
that is true.
He reverted to his childlike form and ran away and hid.
Yeah.
Until Black Adam went away, because he couldn't when Captain Marvel, Shazam, has his powers, he and Black Adam have that connection, since they have the same power granted to them by the same entity. They know where each other are at all times. So when Billy reverts back to his childlike form, Black Adam couldn't find him. So, hiding is actually something that he does.
Yeah, but he wouldn't be able to hide from her because she can feel anything in the environment.
Right, but it only takes a couple of seconds to shout out Shazam. Now, of course, he can use his powers of reason and whatnot to say, try and persuade her to give him a second and be all like, I need to show you something. Shout Shazam to reveal, hey, I'm a 10-year-old boy, you need to stop beating up on me. And then go, psych, and then shout Shazam, and then fight all over again. Because I read
I'm just a cute and innocent little kid.
I've actually read on Captain Marvel through Marvel, she's able to take a beating, granted, but she's not full-on invulnerable like, say, Superman, who, blocks bullets with his face. So there have been moments, it's taken a lot, but there have been moments where she's needed to take a breath. So I feel that's a leg up in Shazam's corner to just be all like, hold on, give me a minute. I need to show you something.
Yeah, but at the same time, then we kind of forget to take into account the fact that she can teleport and mess with time and go through the quantum realm. So going back to that, if it's just a second, she's like, okay, pause. No.
So can Shazam. So with his teleportation, it is actually linked to the Rock of Eternity, which I would like to touch base on with what Single Dad had said. The Rock of Eternity is this pocket dimension, basically. And it's much like the Green Lantern ring. He always has a connection with it. He can use it to teleport and to change time. So he too can do these things. Now,
so basically, they would never do to each other. They would just be going back and forth into time.
Right.
Yeah, they would just be going back and fighting for eternity for the
no, I'm
seven.
gonna hit you a second ago.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get you a second ago, and then it's like 3 years prior.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like at some point, I think because their powers are somewhat matched, it would definitely come down to their mentality. Who's willing to give in first?
Yeah.
Because they can stand toe to toe when it comes to travel, transportation, things like that. Granted, we can take a beating, but we can also absorb it and dish it right back out. So in that sense, with the infinite resets and the power of time, that would be a pretty intense battle to watch, essentially backwards.
Yeah.
Okay,
And-
you would definitely. You got to say this would make an awesome Tarantino movie because you start at the middle, go to the end, and then finish at the beginning.
Yeah.
So true.
Oh, and remembering two other powers. Shazam is also clairvoyant. He has demonstrated a couple of times, and it's through the wisdom of Solomon, to also be clairvoyant and see things before they happen. It's not always obviously worked out in his favor all the time because, again, he has to
The
activate.
same thing. And so if
Yeah.
you're seeing each other's future, you're
Well,
both
yeah,
predicting each other's future.
yeah, exactly. And to touch base on it again, um, the power of persuasion is not just his charismatic charm. He also has demonstrated a super hypnosis. Now, I'm not sure if this would affect her because I don't know how strong her mind is towards it. But he has been known to take on certain foes and will them through hypnosis to stop them from doing what they're doing. So that's fun to note. I feel like I'm fucking talking about Superman. Oh, by the way, there's this power. By the way, there's this power.
It does seem like that with both Captain Marvel and Shazam in a way. Like the more you unveil, like the more you read into it, the more powers you discover and the more things they can
Layers
tap
of
into.
an onion.
It really is with both of them, which is
Perfect.
exciting. I will say this though, because Antonia brought up another point that's really actually I didn't even know it at all. There's actually a DC versus Marvel Comics crossover. It was, let's see if I can name it right. So it's issues 2 through 2 were titled Marvel Comics versus DC. It was a limited series crossover published by DC Comics and Marvel Comics in 1996. And it was a lot of big heavy hitters. Feel free to look it up. And guess who won?
Who?
Marvel.
Marvel won? In
Marvel won.
versus DC?
Mm-hmm. However, it's not like a clear-cut victory. It does end up kind of like fusing the two universes together with bits and pieces of both. But yeah, Marvel won.
And then we had Flashpoint,
That's true. Oh, and
which erased all of that.
And it
That's true.
changed
But
it all that never
yeah,
happened.
guess who also beat Shazam at Flashpoint or during Flashpoint?
Wonder Woman. Yes.
So, with that being said, it like
And
down
how
to
many
just carnal
people
instincts.
Sorry, yes. We'll let's go ahead and touch on that. How many people did Wonder Woman murder in Flashpoint? Like straight up?
Straight up kill people, man. Like,
I-
straight up.
What?
I-
I'm evil sometimes when I have to be.
Don't
But
worry.
the job needs to get done.
Shazam is as well. So when he opened Pandora's box, he was actually even with the power of the gods, he was still taken over by the evil of Pandora's box. So, I mean, he's not infallible. None of these characters are infallible.
That's true.
And to all the listeners out there, one fact from I am sure these guys can agree with me. Something to really keep in mind about comic books, especially when you're pinning them together to a what if fight, it depends on the person writing the story. These characters aren't real, so we have no idea. Like, duh. But, like, you know, I sit here and I watch Screw Attack, and I watch Variant Comics do it, and I watch Superpower Beatdown. Of course, I don't always go with Superpower Beatdown because they do it by a fan vote, and they don't actually, like, talk and discuss things. So I'm just like, wait. But, you know, at the end of the day, you know, it depends on who's writing these stories and which versions of characters we're talking about. Like, I would arguably say if it was All-Star Superman who was a part of the Marvel versus DC, DC would then win. We're talking about a character who bench pressed the weight of the earth times 10, I think 5 times, and the only reason he stopped was because the machine broke. And he only dropped a single bed of sweat. Like, and he was fine. He's like, what's up? We're also talking about All-Star Superman who, I can't believe I'm saying this, grabbed a black hole and put it between his hands and held it there until someone could get it fixed. Like, Marvel versus DC, I'm sorry, like, if you're using the real, like, if you really think about it, Superman alone, as Batman's put it, if he was not so Boy Scout, Superman would destroy everything.
That is true.
Like, so I guess I love the comment about whole Marvel versus DC, but I have to say, if you were to put Injustice Superman into that mix, you're fucked, Marvel. I'm sorry, you're fucked. Superman's not going to hesitate. He's going to laser beam everybody through the fucking eye sockets and melt their brains. He's going to fucking punch everybody so hard that they turn to ash.
This is why we need to bring back Celebrity Deathmatch.
Yes.
Little claymation characters murdering each other for entertainment.
I cannot tell you how many nightmares I got from that show. So, like, just, so many, like, clay blooding brains just, like, all up in there. Oh, man. Well, highlight of my childhood, let me tell you.
You're a lucky lady, because tomorrow's, next week's episode, I'm just kidding.
Oh, my gosh. No, I will say this. You did touch up on a really good point. It's very much like history. It was like the winner writes the story. The winner writes, or like the writer decides what's going to happen. So I would like to see that combination. And I think at the end of the day, if both were to go at it, it would end up being like a joining forces type of thing.
Oh yeah, like I mean, most of these stories are for sure.
Yeah.
I also feel like in retrospect,
when good guys fight each other.
in retrospect, I also really feel like, as I said before, the unstoppable force meets the immovable object. I feel like ultimately nothing would really go down happen because they're at such a stalemate and at odds with one another. They've got one power that affects that can thwart the other one, but oh wait a minute, this person's got this to thwart that, and it would just continue and nothing would go down. So, ultimately I feel like nothing would really happen. And I guess my answer to your question about how it would go down, again, I feel like it would go down in a sense that Shazam would flirt with Captain Marvel, be all flashy dashy, and she'd get annoyed, hit him, and then he'd lose his childlike temper real fast and go, I'm sorry, what the fuck? And then he'd be like, no, wait, hold on, and she'd get all like, they'd start fighting because he can't keep his mouth shut, and he's got to be a 10-year-old and fucking run his mouth and flirt. That's how I think this fight would go down.
And she's a pilot, so
she probably would have none of that flirtatious shit at
yeah.
all. So I guess that's how it would start, but yeah.
Yep. So anyway, to all the listeners, give us your responses. Whether in the podcast section does have a comment section, so please sign up with Podbean if you want. I would love it if you could. We start monetizing this next month. And give us your comments.
So really quickly, shout outs to a couple of people that have been contributing to this. So Antonio Fett, Maddie OP, there was a couple other, T1 Guns, Tanica 1. Thank you guys for checking us out. I'll post the link to our podcast in the chat. So stick around for that because we do this every week. It's fun.
Fucking right, eh? Oh man. Next week we are doing words.
We're having a derp cosplay session. That's what we're doing.
Okay, right. Next week we will be figuring out amongst ourselves where we want to go next because we've got 3 topics to obviously talk about. We are probably going to go fully in depth with all history about Captain Marvel, Ms. Marvel, Marvel, all of it, because that movie is coming out very soon. We want to hop on that bandwagon train. We'll be doing one for Shazam when it gets closer to his release date. And of course, everybody will be talking about Endgame, what we think is going to happen, what we think is going to end up going down for Phase 4, how we think Marvel Cinematic Universe is going to survive, if people will be burnt out on it or not. So stay tuned for epic episodes to ensue. That's all I got for everybody. I'm Tom Cruise with Single Dad, Mayan, and Cosplay Genemy. We did not have J4 tonight. He's at work. Everybody pray for him. Wish him well. Do all you got because he is deployed. So give him all your love. With that, peace. You guys could actually say something instead of just fucking waving.
No.
This is a
They
voice
can't
thing, isn't
hear
it?
you wave. Like,